One of the biggest scandals in Korean entertainment history just took another shocking turn, because the latest police findings are now raising a question almost nobody expected. What if some of the most explosive evidence that turned the public against Kim Soo-hyun was never real in the first place? Because after a full police investigation, investigators are now saying that some of the most explosive evidence used against Kim Soo-hyun, the screenshots, the voice recording, may not have been real. But before we get into all of it, I just want to take a second, because at the center of this entire story is Kim Sae-ron, a young actress who walked the canned red carpet at 9 years old, who became the youngest Best Actress nominee in Baeksang history before she was old enough to drive, who had one of the most extraordinary starts to a career that Korean cinema had ever seen, and whose life, by the time she was 24, had become unbearably public. However you feel about this case, that part matters. It always will. Okay, let's get into it. So here's what the 2026 police investigation actually found. The Seoul Gangnam Police looked into the specific materials that Garosero Research Institute, also known as Hover Lab, had put out publicly, and their conclusions ended up in a formal arrest warrant application filed in May 2026. And what they found is pretty staggering. Let's start with the KakaoTalk screenshots. If you followed this case in early 2025, you'll remember that Garosero released 11 screenshots of what they claimed were KakaoTalk conversations between Kim Soo-hyun and the late actress, going back to 2016. Those screenshots were a huge part of why public opinion shifted so hard and so fast. But here's what police are now saying actually happened. According to investigators, Kim Se-wai received the original screenshots from a member of the bereaved family. But in those original screenshots, the conversation partner wasn't labeled as Kim Soo-hyun. It was labeled as unknown. And here's the thing about KakaoTalk. When someone changes their phone number and creates a new account, their old contacts can lose the display name entirely. The sender just shows up as unknown. So the identity of who was actually on the other end of those messages, according to police, it was never confirmed. Police allege that Kim Se-wai knew this, and instead of disclosing it, they claim he edited those screenshots in multiple places, swapping out unknown for Kim Soo-hyun's name, adding the actor's profile photo, and then released them publicly as proof. According to documents cited by Star News Korea, police stated directly that Kim Se-wai posted fabricated materials while knowing the identity of the other person had never actually been verified. Now, Kim Se-wai pushes back on this. He says the visuals shown at press conferences were described at the time as reconstructed CG representations, not original screenshots. He maintains the real conversations existed, and that the name appeared as unknown simply because the account had changed over time. That's going to be one of the biggest arguments in any trial that follows, but the police position is clear. And then there's the audio recording. And honestly, this is where things get really complicated. In May 2025, Kim Se-wai held a press conference and played a recording that was presented as the late actress's own voice. In it, the speaker appeared to describe the relationship directly. It spread everywhere: Korean media, international outlets, social media, almost instantly. For a lot of people, that recording felt like the most damning piece of evidence in the entire case. Police are now saying it wasn't real. Their conclusion is that the recording was artificially constructed, built to imitate her speech patterns, not a real recording, not her voice. And according to the warrant documents as cited by Korea Times, investigators didn't just say it was fake. They said it contained numerous signs of falsity and fabrication and was released to the public without any filtering whatsoever. Police also alleged that the motivation behind all of this was financial, generating donations and advertising revenue from the millions of people watching those broadcasts. That's a significant allegation, because if that's true, it means one of the most emotionally charged pieces of evidence in this entire saga was constructed specifically to go viral. But here's where it gets murky. And I think this is important to be honest about. Kim Se-wai has pointed out that Korea's National Forensic Service, the same body that worked with police during this investigation, reportedly came back with an inconclusive finding back in November 2025, meaning they couldn't definitively confirm whether the recording was artificially produced or not. So, on one hand, police are saying it's fabricated. On the other, the forensic body previously said they couldn't tell. That gap between inconclusive and confirmed fake is going to be central to whatever happens in court, and it's a legitimate question that doesn't have a clean answer yet. Now, there's another part of this that honestly caught a lot of people off guard. The legal representative connected to Kim Sae-ron's bereaved family has been officially booked by police as an alleged co-conspirator. Not because Kim Soo-hyun's side filed a complaint against the lawyer. Police say they uncovered this independently during their own investigation. The allegation is that the attorney wasn't just advising the family, but actively supplied the raw screenshot materials to Kim Si-wai. Again, allegation, not a conviction. The full legal process is still ahead. But the fact that police identified this on their own, without prompting, is something a lot of people in Korea have pointed to as a significant detail. So, where does the case actually stand right now? On May 14th, police filed for an arrest warrant for Kim Si-wai. On May 19th, prosecutors filed their own on charges of defamation and alleged violations tied to the distribution of fabricated materials. The warrant hearing is May 26, 2026, at the Seoul Central District Court. And I want to be really clear about what that means, because it gets lost in a lot of the coverage. A warrant hearing is not a verdict. It's not even a trial. All it determines is whether Kim Si-wai should be detained while the broader legal process plays out. Whatever the judge decides on May 26th, the bigger case, and the question of actual guilt or innocence is still a long way from being resolved. Kim Si-wai has denied everything. He says the materials were genuine. He says the prosecution is politically motivated, and he continues to maintain that the broader allegations against Kim Soo-hyun are true. Now let's talk about the public reaction, because honestly, it tells its own story. For Kim Soo-hyun's fan base, these findings landed like a confirmation of everything they'd been saying since 2025, and they hadn't exactly been quiet about it. His fan union had already filed legal complaints at the Seoul Seongbuk police station against multiple content creators who had spread the claims. They'd been compiling evidence for months. When the warrant application became public, the reaction from that side was swift. Relief, exhaustion, and a lot of "we told you so" energy across Korean and international fan communities. But for a lot of other people, the police findings didn't just flip a switch. Some pointed to the NFS inconclusive result and questioned how police could go from "we can't confirm it" to "it's fabricated." Others argued that the investigation addressed the authenticity of specific materials, but not the question of what actually happened between these two people. And for them, that distinction mattered. There are people who watched Kim Soo-hyun's March 2025 press conference and found it unconvincing at the time, and the police findings haven't changed that for them. That perspective is out there, it's real, and it hasn't gone away. And then there's a third group, people who aren't really focused on either individual at this point, but who are genuinely unsettled by what this case has revealed. That an audio recording of a deceased person could be presented as real evidence at a public press conference, spread globally within days, and help bring down a major career before a single forensic check had been requested. That part of the story has hit people hard, regardless of what they thought about Kim Soo-hyun going in. So, what actually happens next? The May 26th hearing decides the detention question. If the warrant is granted, formal charges follow, and that's where everything police have alleged will be tested properly in court. The screenshot editing, the audio fabrication, the financial motive, the lawyer's alleged role, all of it goes under full legal scrutiny. For Kim Soo-hyun personally, things are less certain. His drama knockoff is still sitting unreleased. His attorney Ko Sang-rock said in February that a release would be a response to the fans who waited and never gave up. But Disney Plus has officially denied any confirmed release date as of March 2026. The production cost reportedly around 60 billion Korean won. It's just sitting there. The police documents describe the collapse of his career, his halted work, and his ongoing treatment as direct consequences of what was circulated against him. And whether any of that is recoverable, professionally, publicly, or personally, isn't something any court ruling is going to fully answer. This case has become something bigger than any one person involved in it, because what it's really forcing people to reckon with is how fast a story can move, and how much damage it can do, before anyone stops to check whether what's being shared is actually true. We're living in a moment where that gap between something went viral and something was verified can be the difference between a career and its end. The warrant hearing is May 26th. We'll be covering whatever happens next. So, where do you stand on all of this? Do you think the public moved too fast? Or do you still think there are questions left unanswered? Let us know in the comments, because clearly, this conversation is far from over,